broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, welcome to today's webinar. Expect the best, plan for the worst. The CVB, your destination troubleshooter. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to those on the East Coast. My name is Shimo with DMAI, that's Destination Marketing Association International. And DMAI is the trade association for Convention and Visitors Bureau, and empowerMINT.com is the web portal where you can find all the best CVBs in one location to help you find the best fit for your meeting no matter where you're headed. And facilitating today's webinar is Terry Roberts, who manages our training and development for DMAI. Welcome, Terry.
Hey, Shimo.
And we're also happy to have with us two troubleshooting experts today. Ann McLeod is Director of Meetings and Expositions at the Society of American Military Engineers. And Ann, you've joined SAME in February of last year, and you oversee the organization's meetings and conferences. And you're going to tell us a little bit about those conferences in just 1 second. But prior to working at SAME, Ann was on the staff of GWSAE and ASAE. So, you know, and it's really great to have you with us today, and we really, really appreciate your participation. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
And we also are happy to have Kevin Camazin. And Kevin is currently serving as Chief Marketing Officer for the Greater Phoenix CVB and has over 25 years of industry experience. Now, you know, Kevin, we're not trying to give away your age or anything, but that's quite a bit of years. And you've had experience in Director of Trade Show Sales at Louisville CVB and 13 years at San Diego CVB, and now your recent position, you are overseeing the sales and services as VP of Sales and Services. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Shimo. You make me sound busy.
Well, you know, so for our audience, we have a lot of people still logging in, but we would like to kind of just kind of find out a little bit about our audience this morning. So we're going to send you all out a quick poll. And would like you to just go ahead and answer this question for our planners today. How many meetings will you execute in 2012? So for you, for the planners, why don't you go ahead and take the poll. So, and how about you? How many meetings or trade shows will you execute in 2012?
This year we have about 15. We actually have 2 international meetings. One of those is every other year, and this is the year where one of them is happening. So we've got a meeting in Germany and a meeting in Korea, and the rest of our meetings just all throughout the United States.
Wow, that's quite a bit of meetings, and they're both large and small, are they not?
Yes, we range in size from about, say, 50 to about 2,500 for our annual meeting.
Excellent. Well, let's see what our audience has chimed in on. So if I close that poll, we can kind of see about, and if I share that with you, you could see that we have about 35% of our audience that are planning and executing on less than 5 this year, 10% from 6 to 10 meetings, 23% between 11 and 25. Maybe that's sort of the number that you're also managing, right, Ann? And then we have 17% in the 26 to 50 and 15% in 50 or more. Is that not a lot of meetings? So, Terry, don't you think that that's a lot that could go wrong?
Well, it's funny because I was sitting here thinking, looking at those photos and hearing everyone's voice, we all look and sound so happy. But not to be the Debbie Downer or bring in the glass half empty sort of thing, but I sit here and kind of think the only thing that's sort of constant in my life is sort of change and problems. So my thought process is like, do all of us, kind of have that sensation that we dread sort of answering that voicemail or opening that email or, Lord forbid, turning on the television or accessing internet for, fear of what sort of disaster, whether it's man-made or natural, that we will all encounter next. And I think meeting professionals are faced, obviously, with a plethora of problems. So the more meetings, the more problems. But here's the piece that is more concerning. It's about having to solve those problems in an unfamiliar destination. So our goal today is really to kind of have a discussion with Ann and Kevin about how CVBs are especially well suited to help you not only find solutions, but another area of expertise is to foresee potential problems, to get out in front of things. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is just to how to really enable you to access really accurate information that you know that you can trust. So why do CVBs, at least in our opinion, make the perfect meeting planning partners? And we really think it's this trifecta, this ability to have a very unique, very comprehensive view of the destination. Kevin, I know we always like to say that, CVB first. If CVB is the first call in any destination that you can open up and explore all of the opportunities, and that you have this opportunity to also engage with local expertise. They are the eyes and ears on the ground. They have those connections, whether it be with local government or political officials, or even really how they are networked with the entire hospitality community really gives them this unique ability to understand the lay of the land. And then last but not least, that third piece is to have all of these extensive in-market relationships. These relationships, Kevin, that I know you've spent years in each of the destinations that you've represented really cultivating, and how planners are then, vis-a-vis you, able to leverage those contacts.
And Terry, first and foremost, we have some questions that some of the audience has the ability to type in. So for those of you that would like to ask a question, please do so. You can type those right in. But Kevin, probably just to start off, one of the questions came across as to if we could kind of explain about convention and visitor bureaus, or a CVB, and maybe you can.
Sure. Let me start off first by maybe addressing a misperception that we hear often, and that is that CVBs are really only interested in large meetings. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, the bottom line is that a CVB, I like to think of ourselves as kind of your Google to a destination, that when you need anything in the destination, you can come to us. And I know we hear from a lot of our client friends out there that they have strong established relationships with their national sales offices, or the hotel chains, or the global sales offices. But the difference between us and those folks is we are here. We're in the destination. So we like to put ourselves in a position where the global sales offices find a value in using us, because we can be the eyes and the ears in real time in the destination today, and also can, as you mentioned earlier, Terry, can foresee things that are on the horizon that we may know about that are happening in the future. So the CVB, we're often thought of as a sales organization also, but that's really just the beginning of what a CVB has to offer. Because once we help you find a location in the destination and you establish a relationship with that destination, the hotel or whatever, that's when the services aspect kicks in. And a lot of planners don't realize that there's a lot of servicing that goes on and helping that planner along the way as they lead up to the actual meeting dates.
That's perfect, Kevin. So start by talking about how that relationship would begin. How do you first begin to help planners find things they are looking for in the destination? And then what after that, what are the other kinds of requests, whether, it's some obscure need they're trying to fill or some special request that you might be able to facilitate?
Well, first and foremost, it's important for the planner to know that, the old myth of how CVBs connect with their hotels or members is pretty much that. It's a myth. We wouldn't be offering the proper service to our customer if we didn't find out first exactly what their footprint needs are. We're very good listeners when it comes to hearing what, size of a hotel, rate range, type of hotel, meeting space, all the ambiance of the meeting itself, gathering that information and making sure that we're connecting the planner with those potential properties. Once that's done and the planner, they pick their facility. I mean, we've had situations where we've had a conference at our convention center and they were trying to find someone to create an opening prayer for the group. Well, what a CVB can do, particularly when you can reach out to the indigenous things in your community, our services department connected the planner with one of our local Native American tribes where they rode in on horseback and gave the opening prayer. So that obviously would be appropriate for Phoenix. Other destinations can offer those same types of connections where, again, stressing the fact that we have the local knowledge and can address and direct the customer to those resources. So it's a myriad of things. It can be, the planners run into challenges finding a local speaker for a medical convention. We can connect with our local medical community here, which we have a fairly profound footprint of medical industry here, and just really kind of open doors and help be the eyes and ears and the legs in the street for that planner for whatever resource they need in the destination.
That's perfect, Kevin. I love the unique local flavor of that too. Not only help you solve problems, but help you solve them in a way that is really unique to the destination. And I know when we spoke earlier, and I know you've worked with Kevin for a long time and worked with CVBs as you source your meetings. Talk to us about how you feel the CVB is critical in the find process.
Well, typically when we are sending out RFPs, I will send it to the CVB and also to my national sales offices, because a lot of times there are independent hotels within a city that you don't know about that could be the perfect fit for your meeting. And of course, the CVB rep is going to let you know that, and they're going to get the RFP to those places that otherwise you might completely miss because you're only sending it out to, your Marriott's or your IHG's or Hilton or what have you. I also think that a lot of times the CVB rep will know what your hot buttons are. I mean, for us, we try to get government per diem for most of our meetings, but it is not necessary. And also our meetings tend to be very space intensive, so our rooms to space ratio is not that great. But we're willing to pay meeting room rental. Now, if the CVB rep can let folks know, hey, when you look at this proposal on the face, you might think that it's not going to work for your hotel, but the client's willing to pay meeting room rental, which of course we're not going to put that in our RFP, but if they can give them that little piece of information, then that is going to help us find a better place for our meeting.
So they're really then, in that essence, sort of helping the hotels understand the real value of your meeting and ways in which you might be flexible.
Exactly.
So, Ann, you said something that kind of piqued my interest, because you said, normally we copy both our national sales office, our GSO of the hotel brands that we like to work with, and the CVB. And I think a lot of planners think of those two relationships as being mutually exclusive, that I either source my RFP through the Convention and Visitors Bureau, or I source my RFP through a national sales office or a global sales office, but that I can't do both at the same time. So you're in fact saying they're perfect partners for each other too.
Absolutely, absolutely, because again, you might be missing some hotels by not sending it out to your CVB rep, and of course you want your CVB rep to know when you're coming to their city. So because they can help you in other ways. I mean, they can give you a heads up saying, you might want to know that there's a huge convention in town that, normally your organization doesn't play with, or, whatever. Or they can say, you know what, I want to let you know there's a huge citywide in the city at that time, so you might not get a lot of responses, whereas your national salesperson might really not have that inside information.
Well, Ann, you cued Kevin perfectly to our next slide, which is, so thanks for doing that unknowingly. Kevin, talk to us about okay, so we talked about the fines. So now let's talk about how, what Ann was just saying, that CVBs are in a very unique position to understand everything that's happening in a destination, not just what might be happening at one particular hotel. And so how do you help educate planners on the circumstances in a destination that might impact either their meeting or in some cases impact even how they make a decision about when or where to hold their meeting?
Well, I can give you two examples, both fairly large examples. One while I was still in San Diego when some of you may remember the Cedar fires as the media made it look like the entire city was on fire. And of course that's not true. And we immediately, had to take to the phones and were fielding many, many questions regarding what was the situation with the convention center, how are the hotels downtown, and basically became the source of real information relative to the planner's needs. They didn't want to see the news, they didn't want to hear rumors, they just wanted to know really what's going on and how will this impact me. And naturally, there really was no impact in downtown San Diego. The fires were quite a ways from there, but when you watched it on the news, it looked like the whole city was on fire. Similarly, I think everyone's aware of the fact that we've gone through some political issues here as it relates to some an immigration bill. And the biggest challenge that we had with that was getting truthful information to the planner. Needless to say, the media was, out there doing their thing, which they have to do. But at the same time, a lot of the data that was out there just was simply not true. And we were put in a unique position where, we felt the responsibility of making sure that the planners had the facts around that. There was rumors out there that you would be pulled out of a car and asked for your ID if they thought you might be in the country illegally, which was completely untrue. And to this day, it's business as usual here in Phoenix and in Arizona. And that was obviously a very extreme situation where we had to deal with all the mistruths and the myths. But at the same time, we were able to connect a lot of our political officials with planners and take some of them on the road with us to meet with planners and organizations to help them really understand what was really going on in Arizona.
So Kevin, you make a great point then. So whether it's foreseeing more minor things like, hey, there's going to be traffic or parking concerns with your group, or there might, as Ann mentioned, there might be a competitive group in it over the same time, and the destination expert would allow you to be able to understand how you might work around certain things. And then, as you mentioned, there's problems and then there's real problems. So, I mean, there's another, afraid to turn on your television is like, what earthquake, hurricane, flood, fire, or, political controversy will be stirred up today, and perhaps in an area where you have a meeting. And I think you bring up a perfect example of those Cedar fires, because I'm in the San Diego area, and when we were having those fires, even relatives were calling us going, where is this in relationship to where you are? And Ann, I know you can imagine, seeing that same similar situation where a destination where you have a meeting has something happening and you don't really know the lay of the land as well. So, Ann, talk to us about destination experts at Convention and Visitors Bureaus and how they've sort of helped you foresee and then get accurate information and help you solve problems in real times of crisis.
Sure. Well, one thing that I find helpful with CVBs, especially if you're planning for off-site events, that they can let you know what's going on, like if there's a marathon in a city or something like that, and you're trying to shuttle your attendees to the convention center, and there's a marathon and there's going to be street closures. I mean, it's very helpful. This has happened to me in the past, and then you need to know that you need to allocate more time to get your attendees where they need to be at the time they need to be there, and you can communicate that to your attendees. And otherwise, you're probably not going to know that unless you're, I don't know, a marathoner.
Right. I mean, so again, that's a comprehensive view of the destination, that you're working with someone who isn't seeing what's happening in a particular hotel in a silo, but you're working with someone, you have a partnership with someone who sees the destination as a whole.
Right, exactly. For us, last year at our annual meeting, we were in Texas, and during on our first day, our opening reception, there was a big tornado warning. I'm really not sure what the terminology was, but we had to evacuate our reception.
During the opening reception?
During the opening reception, with 2,000 people wandering around. Of course, the highest thing on their mind was, can I get a drink first before you're going to make me go into the basement? But, after that, and it was such a ripple effect because, of course, it affected people arriving to the destination because flights were canceled, and then a lot of airplanes were damaged due to hail, and so then there was a ripple effect, of course, of people arriving on time, checking into the hotel, being able to get there. And the hotel came to me a day or two into the meeting saying that she wanted to give me a heads up, and we're facing an attrition situation because, of course, people were not coming and checking in and what have you. And I thought, okay, you got to be kidding me here, because we had this tornado and, force majeure and all that. So I talked with my bureau representative, and they said, listen, don't worry about it. I know that there's other stuff going on in the city. I know that, throughout your whole time, since you're working on a cumulative pickup here, that your shoulder nights, the hotel was full, and you're going to be fine. And if you need me to run any reports, if, when push comes to shove, they're telling you need to pay attrition, let me run some reports for you. I will get the data, and we will work this through so you're not going to have to pay attrition. And so then it was like a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders. And if I hadn't talked to my bureau rep, I probably would have been panicking for days.
And so to be in that reactive mode again instead of that sort of preactive, hey, we can get all the information you need. And I had a planner, Ann, talk to me about a similar situation and a troubleshooting expertise of the DMO. And Kevin, you can bounce in here too about a very familiar situation of attendees going perhaps around the block and then making it difficult to, account for all of their rooms in the destination. And again, CVB reports were helpful in helping them identify which people had really been a part of the group.
Exactly, and we have someone on our staff who actively pursues the hotels, even those that aren't in the original block, to find out if there are any sub-blocks that have been picked up by the hotels in the area. And you can often get good information back from those hotels that you can then share with the planner after the fact so that they can have accurate counts. Because that's a situation that's happening. It's very prolific in every destination. People are looking for better rates. I mean, unfortunately, I hate to admit it, but it happens in our own industry when we go to our own annual meetings where a lot of, I won't say me, but a lot of us will try to find a better rate outside the block. But, something else, Terry, I'd just like to add real quick is that, we're talking a lot about, kind of large crisis situations or, misperceptions in the media. You look at what happened with the oil spill and, Florida got painted with the same brush as the Gulf Coast. I mean, there was all this spun information out there. But there are also situations where the planner's kind of pulling their hair out trying to find a connection in the destination. For example, we had a planner here that had a concrete show in our convention center. And as a part of what they do in a destination, they need to use some of their companies to create a project of the destination. So we just happened to be, had just opened was our children's museum here. That's just several blocks from the convention center. And we're able to connect the organization with the children's museum. And what basically came out of it was that they were able to go over there and pour a concrete sidewalk for the children's museum at no cost to the museum, because it was part of what they had to do as an organization. And it was something that the museum badly needed. So, you know, there's a lot of crisis things that a CVB can help with, but it's, you know, we more often than not are offering solutions, local solutions to planners when they need something, again, whether it's hospitality related or not within the community.
So big, small, and everything in between, it's really just great to have that relationship and that relationship established up front. So Ann and Kevin, thank you for all of those specific examples. And I think for the planners on the line, you know, with over 100,000 hotels and facilities in the United States to navigate, hopefully, you know, after some of this discussion, you think, hey, I'd really like to connect with a destination expert prior to starting that bind process for our next meeting. And we hope at GMAI that you might be encouraged to go to empowerMINT.com and be able to connect with the destination experts who can help you with all of these concerns. And at empowerMINT.com, you have the opportunity to do really three things. One is to search and compare multiple cities that you may be interested in, and then be able to save time by submitting one RFP to multiple destinations. And then when you come back, as Kevin mentioned, this whole post-event reporting or history reporting and how important this is for planners to understand their post-event reports, empowerMINT gives you the opportunity to view post-event reports that have been submitted by convention and visitors bureaus as you visited their cities. And so it gives you an opportunity to really not only access your history, but to open up a discussion with a convention and visitors bureau if you have concerns about the accuracy. You know, maybe your post or pre-room nights were not accounted for, or maybe you know, there was a block that was outside the hotel and you want to make sure that you get credit for those room nights. So this is an example, quickly, just to show the planners on the line. If you were a planner who was registered at empowerMINT, over there to the right now you'll see that your history for your meeting would be listed if you're a primary planner from a reporting destination, and that you would be able to view that history and discuss your post-event report. So I think that sort of concludes our troubleshooting expert commentary. And Shimo, I know you've been sort of monitoring our question board, so I'll kind of refer back to you to see if there are any specific questions for Ann or for Kevin at this time.
Well, thank you, Terry, and excellent discussion. And we have several questions that are in that we won't be able to address all of them, but I will remind everyone that you certainly can receive CNP credits, so Terry will be illustrating that in just a few minutes after a couple of questions. But one of the questions that came in, Ann, really referred to when you mentioned you work with your CVBs as well as your GSOs. And what do you do about managing the receiving of duplicate proposals from the same hotel, or how do you manage that in communicating with your CVBs and your GSOs?
That's a great question, and actually, it's never been an issue. I've never received multiple proposals from the same hotel, so it's not an issue.
And Kevin, I think from your end, yes.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that. You know, our hotels know that there are multiple distribution channels out there. You know, you can even throw the third party into the mix there. So our hotels, you know, the chain hotels, if they get the lead from, you know, both the CVB and their NSO, they're usually fine with that, because they too that at the end of the day, they may very well need our services. Customer may need us for registration or for housing or for site inspections or for a myriad of things that we provide, again, free as a destination, as a CVB. So, you know, it becomes, you know, more of a, you know, that we're here to serve the customer. at the end of the day, how do we make the customer's life easier, whether they get the lead from a third party, NSO, GSO, and we duplicate the lead. Like I said, at the end of the day, we want them to come have their meeting in our city, whichever hotel they choose, and make that as seamless a process for them as possible.
And Kevin, I know that you mentioned this earlier, but there were some questions about the services of a CVB. So certainly CVBs are the best and first point of contact for any size meeting, but what about the services, and can you kind of describe what your services team is all about?
Sure. I mean, it's anything from connecting on a venue need. For example, as I mentioned earlier, they needed somebody to, customer needed somebody to do the opening prayer for their general session at the convention center. And we were able to connect the dots there, whether it could be local indigenous entertainment options. We can reach out for even, a restaurant facility that can host a board dinner for 20 people. These are all the different things that we can connect the planner to in the destination right to when they're having their meeting here. If they have a need. And on a larger scale, there are oftentimes a large citywide convention will need the CVB to attend their previous year convention, to promote attendance, and to answer questions about the destination. So, it's kind of everything on both ends of the spectrum and everything in the middle. And, most CVBs in the country provide, there's a lot of similar services that CVBs provide. And, I'll put a plug back into Empowerment, too, because one of the things, if a planner doesn't want to pick up the phone and call a zillion different CVBs or 5 CVBs, depending on the cities they're looking at, they can go to the website with the MAI and actually go in and take a look at what services these CVBs offer. So they can get a snapshot on the front end. Hey, will they help me with my site inspection when I come to town? Will they customize an itinerary? Will they actually fly me out to to site the city? And the planner has access to all of that information at the MAI's website before they even pick up the phone or send the email and find out who their contact is within the destination.
And one last question before we conclude today's webinar is curious about the working hours of a CVB. Can you sort of describe how a planner can connect with the CVB, maybe on weekends or off hours if they have questions?
It's generally I can just speak for our CVB. Most of us are, at a certain level, we're on call basically 24/7 because, planners have issues, and, if they have an issue on a Sunday, they have an issue on a Sunday. So generally, once the relationship's established, the planner will have the cell phone number of their contact here at the CVB. I can't speak for other bureaus, but obviously we're all connected with our email as well. We'll carry, handheld devices that, we can't get away from the blinking red light on our cell phones that tells us there's email in there waiting for us. Naturally, we welcome those emails when a customer has an issue or needs to dialogue. We're available. And naturally, we can't be open 24/7 as an office, but we're pretty much available 24/7.
And I think that just sort of speaks to, Terry, that setting up the relationship at the beginning is often very, very helpful, so that you have that relationship and you've got that connection as you start to execute on your meeting. So, Ann and Kevin, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us, and for our audience for being a great audience and submitting such great questions. And up on the screen, Terry, you've really put the information about the CMP credits, so I wondered if you could emphasize any process there for us.
Just to let all the planners know that the course has been previously approved, so it is an approved course already, and if you just simply print your registration confirmation as proof of attendance and then list this particular course on your year-end detail, it will be counted for 30 minutes, 30 clock hours. So thank you very, very much, and we look forward. We do these monthly, and we hope that you will engage with us on a monthly basis to understand more areas of expertise, CVBs, and obviously just hopefully really good information for planners as you begin to try to differentiate where you might go with your next meeting.
All right. Thank you very much, Terry and Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.